Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Whitepod. My name is Harshit, and I'm the Director of Business Alliances at Wytlabs. We are a digital agency specializing in SaaS and e-commerce SEO. And I've got Andrew Cohen with me, the founder and CEO of Brainscape. A little bit about Brainscape. Brainscape is a smart study platform that helps you break down any subject into its atomic facts and using spaced repetition, and you learn those facts faster than any other study method altogether. So big welcome to you, Andrew, and I'm so happy to host you today.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Brilliant. Now, before we dive into your platform, can you please let the viewers know a little bit about you and your professional journey?
Sure. Brainscape actually started as a problem that I had for myself in my old career, which was international development and economics. I was living in Panama. I was working with the World Bank on a very controversial anti-corruption project, and I had to get really good at Spanish. So I made Brainscape as a Microsoft Excel macro at first, actually, to quiz me on my Spanish vocab words and verb conjugations and phrases in a pattern that just made sense for me. And I kept tweaking the algorithm. I sort of discovered spaced repetition on my own, really the cognitive science concept where the hard things repeat much more frequently and the easy things a lot less so. So I was optimizing the interval of time between repetitions, and it became so effective for me. And I started sharing it with some friends that I went back to grad school. I got a master's in education technology. I learned that spaced repetition actually was a very well-known concept, but there wasn't really a way to apply it in education that well. So I turned Brainscape into an online and mobile platform based on the idea of adaptive flashcards, where any user can create and share and collaborate on flashcards and then study them in the mobile interface and kind of create a learning path for themselves and improve their habits and really see how they're advancing. And it's really taken off. We got everybody from young kids or parents of young kids all the way through medical school and nursing and law and really any concept where there's just tons of content to remember. And raised a little bit of venture capital. We've had our ups and downs, but almost about to hit 10 million users now, and really excited about what's to come.
Well, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Could you share the unique value proposition that sets Brainscape apart from the other learning platforms? And that's a pretty competitive space, And also, please, can you explain a little bit more about spaced repetition method and atomic habits?
Sure. So Brainscape's main value proposition is helping people learn and retain a ton of information much more efficiently in a shorter amount of time and for longer. So who has a ton of information to retain? Particularly, people in the sciences, the health professionals, foreign language learners, law, high regulation industries, finance, real estate, even all the way down to, to high school students who just have a ton of things, for their exams to learn. There is not a more efficient way to manage your knowledge than with Brainscape. If you're looking for something more fun, like you want to gamify your learning, maybe you should use Quizlet or Kahoot or Node. And there's a lot of things out there to sort of gamify. But if you're really, really focused on efficiency, that's who Brainscape's for. So you asked about, spaced repetition. I mentioned even, as far back as the Microsoft Excel macro that I wrote with the original prototype, that it repeats concepts in a pattern that is sort of tailored for your pace of learning. And we get that interval of time from your own confidence rating in how well you know each flashcard. So rather than, multiple choice quiz where you're just picking the right answer, you're recognizing it, a flashcard, you're thinking of the answer from scratch in your head. You're really using what's called active recall or retrieval practice, which is harder and it really deepens the memory trace. And then you yourself rate how well did I know this answer? Because the computer's not saying whether you're right or wrong. It could be a complex answer, many bullet points. So you're saying, how well do I know this concept on a scale of 1 through 5? So if you're like, that was really hard, actually, I'm going to give myself a 1. It's going to come up really frequently or really soon. And if I give myself a 5, hardly ever again. So with that metacognition, the self-assessment, you're able to really optimize the interval of time between each repetition. And so across dozens or hundreds or thousands of pieces of information over a long period of time, you're learning a lot more efficiently, and particularly if you're combining that learning efficiency with good daily study habits, right? If you did all that cramming the night before the test, it's still not going to necessarily stick. But if you can space the timing out over a long period of time, because you're motivated by keeping up your streak or increasing your daily number of cards average or something like that, you're creating a less effort, much more highly effective way to retain information than you ever had before.
Brilliant. And because Andrew, you mentioned that you're about to hit 10 million users, I'm curious now, to understand the user journey on your platform and what all do you do basically to optimize the user experience? What are the KPIs that you look into, and what tools do you use?
Yeah, well, I think there's sort of two main types of people that come to Brainscape. One is I'm looking for flashcards, right? I have this exam or I have a class, and they come to the marketplace either on the website or the mobile app. They type in what they're looking for, or they browse, and then there are either user-generated flashcards, from other students or teachers around the world, but also Brainscape certified flashcards with our publisher partners or our editorial team who really works on that stuff. And so for that type of user, the journey is demo the flashcards, understand how well spaced repetition works for you. And then if you want to unlock the rest for unlimited study, then you're going to upgrade to Brainscape Pro, which is a subscription model. The other type of person who comes to Brainscape is the person who's looking for a tool to make their own flashcards, right? They're using a textbook or a course or some other material where they say, it would be a lot easier to study this if I could break it down into atomic pieces, because as we know, that is the most efficient way to optimize your studying, right? You first have to have it broken down. So they come, make their flashcards for free. You can invite collaborators. You can upload images. You can upload CSVs. You can move things around, shuffle, adjust user permissions, do all that stuff for free. But if you want to make your content private, then you've got to upgrade to Brainscape Pro. So sort of the default is it's public, almost like GitHub, right? The mission is more democratizing learning and studying. But if you're, let's say, a school, a professional school, a company maybe who's doing corporate training, then you're interested in making your content and student data a lot more private. So you'll upgrade to Brainscape Pro or even get a license, from us. So those are the two journeys. Obviously, there's a lot of intermingling of them, right? We get people in as creators, and then they end up finding content that they want to study as well, right? You come for science, but then you upgrade for Spanish, and then vice versa. You might come because Brainscape's got a great Spanish curriculum, but then you really want to make your own flashcards for, your chemistry class. And then you end up sharing with other students and inviting collaborators. So there's that viral component that works in. So if I had a PowerPoint, I'd show you sort of the viral loop diagram, but you can imagine, how those different use cases really kind of feed off each other as a growth multiplier.
Yeah. Okay. And what all do you do? What your typical process looks like for optimizing the user experience?
Well, it's art and science, right? It's data driven. We've got different funnels, and we see, where people are dropping off. And then we jump into that phase of the funnel through usability tests, both by asking existing users, what did you think of this screen or this feature or this content, as well as virgins, right? The people who come from outside of Brainscape, and we recruit through different platforms. So get a good qualitative understanding of really what's the psychographic, of this type of screen. What are people thinking of? What are their issues? And then we design different prototypes that we can test, both internally and then with users, and ultimately, roll it out either through an A/B test or a feature flipper, and validate that it in fact does improve the user experience and the conversion rate that we were looking for, whether it's top of funnel or bottom of funnel. And every quarter we reassess where our biggest bottlenecks are, and make sure that we're both addressing the bottlenecks while also continuing to support the longer term company vision, which I need to keep selling to everybody on the team every day.
Brilliant, man. I would love to know, bit on the marketing front as well, because your marketing strategy caters to both educational and, productivity needs. So how exactly do you strategize?
We're very focused on product marketing and content marketing more so than paid user acquisition. We've tried a lot of forms of paid outbound, meaning ads, right? Google, Facebook, all the different social media platforms, buying email lists or cold outreach to schools or universities or companies. And, because we're a high volume and low cost product, right? Low price product, the economics of paid acquisition typically don't work out, right? You end up paying $200 or $500 to get one paying customer who only pays you $50. So it's sort of underwater. So we really focus on creating the assets, both for the educational and the productivity markets, that sort of make Brainscape a magnet for people who are already looking for us. So maybe the effort happens up front by creating the blog post, or we call it the Brainscape Academy, articles on how to study better, how to improve your focus, how to improve your productivity, or even specifically for an exam, how to study for this nursing exam more efficiently and answer this type of question. So people who have these questions, they may find it via a Google search, via a YouTube video that they're looking for, or a friend sharing with them, or an educator putting a link to the video or to the article on their site. So we're creating a moat around ourselves, and typically it involves a bigger upfront investment that might take a year or two even to pay itself off. But then once it's paying itself off, it's gravy. It's ongoing ROI. So yeah, we think about investing in both the education and productivity markets the same way, by creating assets that add real value to users and aren't just sort of interrupting ads where that investment evaporates into the ether. The user clicks it, or they see it and they don't click or whatever, and then they're gone. And then all the money we spent on that, doesn't actually increase Brainscape's intellectual property or brand footprint as much as really investing in great content does.
That's brilliant. Anyways, content marketing, you rightly mentioned, it takes time to kick in, but the ROI that you get is phenomenal compared to no paid ads and any other strategy, to be honest. So yeah. Right. I would love to know, how does the platform leverages cognitive science and expert insights into the content creation?
Well, I mentioned before how the product, the technology leverages cognitive science, right? As you're using active recall to think of the answer in your head, you're using metacognition to assess your own knowledge, and then you're using spaced repetition to determine when it's repeated. But in the authoring of the content itself, we use a cognitive science principle called scaffolding, which means starting with the easier content or the more foundational content, and then moving more difficult from there. So it's both good for making sure users stay at the zone of proximal development, which means that they're always just a little bit pushed beyond their boundary of what they already know, and sort of a K+1, as Krashen says in language acquisition, rather than being just overwhelmed with so much new stuff at first. So it's better for absorption. It's also better for motivation, right? If you feel like you're making progress more quickly up front. And so that scaffolding is guided by our content team if we're authoring it from scratch, or if we're working with experts, subject matter experts. They're not always educational experts. So we'll have coaching sessions with them about organizing the content. We will send content back for edits. And then we also get lots of student feedback before we publish a Brainscape certified class, where they're suggesting edits, they're giving survey feedback on, how did I feel about this content? And, was it the right learning journey for me? And so all of those data points feed into continually improving the content for the user.
Gotcha. That's brilliant. And I would love to know, because you're targeting different user segments, you got students, educators, employers even, would love to know, how exactly do you tailor your marketing for each of these segments, And what is the prioritization order for you? Because to be honest, targeting such a broad audience and so many verticals is tough.
I know, man. It's a blessing and a curse, and I wish I had a great answer for it. Every like month or quarter, we'll internally say, "Oh man, guys, we need to really focus on this one market. Like this is really the one that's on fire. This is where we're retaining users better and upgrading users better." And then so we'll focus on it by doing things like writing more articles, doing more user focus groups, trying to partner with more organizations as sort of like resellers or incentive models or things like that. But then as soon as we've decided to focus on that one market, 10 other markets approach us and say, "Hey, Brainscape, I want to pay you this money to help us develop flashcards for this completely other, aviation, or I mean, you make it the Royal Canadian Emergency Medicine certification." And so they'll come to us and they'll say, "We have this big audience. We can, bring in these users for you." And it's not that much work for us to work with a new partner, right? We help coach them on how to make good content. We'll review it and then we'll publish it for them. But for the most part, we're just sort of supplementing education entrepreneurs who want to use our product. And so, yeah, we get pulled in different directions, and then then of course we need to maintain those things, right? Users are suggesting edits, or somebody sent us an email and says, "Hey, this article is wrong," or they updated the exam. Now there's a 2023 version, and so this advice is wrong, and we have to go update it. So the more we do, the more kind of maintenance costs we have, right? Process debt. So it's really hard to say no to opportunity, but we continually do try to reprioritize based on really the number one KPI. You were asking about KPIs before. Retention rate and upgrade rate are two really good indicators of a high ROI subject. So the ones that are converting better are usually a good indicator of it would be worth spending more money on this market, because there's something happening there with the user sentiment.
Right. Okay, Andrew, you mentioned two channels primarily that you're leveraging, right? SEO is one, your content marketing, plus inbound marketing, plus you are focusing a lot on the YouTube social channel as well. Any
Yeah.
other thing, any other strategy that's working on your favor? We add this out of the question, but yeah, I mean, any other thing that
Yeah, what's been promising recently, and we're going to be leaning in more to this, is getting a lot of advisors in a subject area to contribute to content as like reviewers, and figuring out what's the incentive for them, like, because giving everybody some percent royalties of sales is difficult. Having some kind of a referral link ends up being difficult for a lot of reasons. It's not just like a page where the user buys right away, or that we could pay for a free user, because that's very gameable, right? The person might click their referral link and then the user upgrades 3 months later. And so the attribution just becomes really, really difficult. So the way that we're sort of trying to get them skin in the game is actually, we want to get 10 reviewer, 10 YouTube or Instagram influencers or whatever, and say, "Hey, like, we want to pay you to review the content. Just help us edit flashcards, like see if we can find some edits, and then maybe make a video or tell your audience about Brainscape." Sort of pay the influencer. But then now they've got, it's not only just their audience maybe is going to see that they did something, but because they've contributed to the actual flashcards, even if we didn't really need their help because we already made great flashcards, they've got skin in the game, and they're going to be talking about it in conversations or cocktail parties, in their specific subject domain. So yeah, how can we sort of create a better web of evangelists? Again, like content marketing and like product marketing, it's a higher cost up front than just ads. You can get started with 2 cents a click, and then you're just sort of addicted to that crack forever in order to keep getting users. Whereas building the relationships takes a lot more research and work up front, but then could pay off more. So yeah, we're focused more on that, creating that moat of increased credibility that just continues to grow.
brilliant. Right. So influencer marketing is one. I would love to know, because you have a huge user base altogether. What all things do you have in place for user retention? What programs do you have in place for keeping them engaged and reuse and revisit the platform?
We'll have a great product, number one. great reasons for them to continue using it. We'll show the user, maybe you came just for one exam and you originally thought of Brainscape as just, okay, Brainscape is my IBHRE exam prep tool. And once I pass the exam, I'm done. But then you see there, trending classes. You're like, trending classes, what's that? It's just right there on your dashboard in a little corner thing. And you see, oh, Spanish. Like I can learn Spanish here, or I can actually learn jokes. We have jokes flashcards. I want to be funnier. I want to like go learn jokes or personal development or the other random subject areas. So we'll sort of suck you in for different reasons than just the exam you came for. So that's a really big thing for retention, right? The more subjects you're using Brainscape for, the more likely you are to stick around, particularly if you're creating flashcards for yourself. Once you're really investing in using Brainscape as like a note-taking tool, it becomes a more permanent thing for you. And then, for users who have sort of lapsed from Brainscape or are starting to lapse, we have a lot of automated email. That's the other big channel I haven't really talked much about. We use customer.io and just a tremendous number of individual personalized triggers to send you emails that are relevant to the subject you're studying, relevant to the tips you might need for Brainscape itself. We noticed that you're trying to add lots of images to your flashcards. Here's advice on how to do that, much more quickly. Or, oh, you're studying French in Brainscape. Well, here's some great articles to help you, practice French better. Or here's 5 YouTube channels that, might be useful to you. So we're even sending people off of Brainscape, but they're clicking on an email from Brainscape. They're sort of, being looped back into our fold, back to our own Academy articles, which not only keeps those users retained, but it also generates traffic that's visible to Google, right? If we're just sending them to our blog posts. And we're, again, sort of juicing that content marketing loop that, especially as SEO, as you guys probably know, it's been changing and it's becoming harder to cut through the noise. Google's putting more ads above the fold. They're, with kind of AI, they're giving a snappier answer at the top. So the users don't always have to click on one of the things on the search results pages. We need to be increasingly smarter about creating real value on our site and having real reasons for users to either click on the search results page or to come from somewhere else, from YouTube discovery or from another site that wants to link to us because we have the best content.
That makes sense. And beyond marketing, how does Brainscape integrate user feedback into its product development and improvement?
Constantly. So we have a Brainscape Discord where power users are suggesting features. Obviously, the tech support channel, people are always suggesting features. So for features and bugs, we prioritize everything in Trello. We've got thousands of Trello cards of things that we'd love to do. And so the art and science of prioritizing is based on how easy it is, how much of an impact it would make on the business, how much it contributes to our long-term vision, and how much it is sort of a technical prerequisite. Some things, it's not sexy, but we kind of need to do that before we do the other things, right? We need to upgrade our version of Ruby that we're using, before we go write new code on the old version of Ruby, that kind of thing. So that's prioritizing sort of tech and features. Prioritizing content, that's an area that we're always kind of revisiting. Like I said, we see a lot of squirrels, right? We chase a lot of squirrels for things that are sort of opportunistic when a partner comes to us. But for, what areas to go after, we look at what's hot in Brainscape. We look at, wow, like people are studying this one subject a ton. We should probably lean into this and actually create good certified content around it, right? If people are making their own flashcards for it, it'd be great if we actually had a trustworthy set, for the rest of the world, so that we sort of have a hook to market to. So yeah, combination of user feedback, user data, and sort of, company prioritization ends up sort of confluencing together to generate our quarterly OKRs.
Gotcha. What do you envision for the future of the company, both in terms of product development or its impact on the user's learning experience?
Well, because we feel that we have the best, most effective way to study knowledge intensive content, we feel we have a responsibility to cover the largest amount of content in the world for that learning experience. So first and foremost, different ways to grow, to reach people, to keep them, engaged and to increase our footprint. So a lot of our technology and content investments are in that. But in terms of, the evolution of the product, I think obviously there's a lot of applications of AI to ingest content and kind of generate flashcards more automatically. So we're looking deeply into that. And then, expanding the learning journey, beyond flashcard, because as a flashcard tool, even as the best one, we're supplementary, right? Like most learners are also studying in a different platform that has their lessons, their videos, their practice exams, their simulations, their assignments, their learning management. And so Brainscape is sort of their flashcard tool. So, what other features can we add on to make Brainscape the primary destination, so you don't actually need another tool, or at least as much of another tool, and that will change the game for us long term, and make us increasingly more of a destination platform. But that's going to be it's a piecemeal journey. First and foremost, we have still a lot of work to do to just even be the best damn flashcard platform.
Gotcha. All right. So, Andrew, we're coming to an end, and I would love to have a quick rapid fire with you. Are you ready for that?
Hit me.
All right. What one word do you want people to associate you with?
Efficiency.
Okay. Any funny nicknames your parents or friends used to call you, or even work colleague?
My mom used to call me Drewski, and some of my friends heard it, and they jokingly called me Drewski as well growing up.
Right. What was your last Google search?
My last Google search. Let me go to my history and I'll tell you. Where's Google search, man? I have 1,000 freaking tabs here. Oh, it was study for IBHRE. I wanted to see what was coming up for that result, because I saw that it was a very popular subject in Brainscape, and I wanted to see what the front door looked like for many other users.
Gotcha. All right. What's something you could eat for a week straight?
Beans.
Yeah. Okay.
Not because they're the most delicious thing in the world, but
Yeah.
they're the most like well-rounded, nutritious food.
All right. Now coming to our very last question. What is not a big deal to most people, but is a torture to you?
It's a great question. Your audience can know, by the way, you did not send me these questions in advance.
You never do.
Yeah, no, that's great. Being thirsty, like I always have water with me,
Huh.
and yeah, I don't like going more than like a half hour without having water near me. I get a little bit.
All right. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you so much for the time, for the wisdom, for all the knowledge that you shared about the platform and in general. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.